Namaste, hello, welcome to NCERT's live phone-in program once again. My name is Sanvi Khurana, and in this social science program, particularly in economics, we discuss a lot of topics, and in this particular session, we're going to talk about food security in India. Well, there's a lot to talk about food security, and a lot of questions come to my mind when I hear food security, in particularly India. So if you have any such queries, something you want to ask, then please feel free and send your questions to ciet.kishoremanch@gmail.com. All the class 9 students, especially this session is for you, and you can watch us on VmVideocon Channel number 9, and similarly you can watch us live on our YouTube channel as well, NCERT official. In the live chat box, write down your questions and send it to us. Simple method. Well, let's meet our expert who will be explaining this topic to you and to me. We have Miss Menka Singh. Welcome, ma'am.
Hello everyone. Hello Tanvi.
Hello ma'am.
Good afternoon to all the students who are watching this session live. Hello.
Okay, welcome ma'am. Once again, ma'am is an assistant professor at Motilal Nehru College, Delhi University. So let's talk about food security. Ma'am, can you please explain the concept food security to our students?
Okay, so food security is generally explained in terms of dimension. There are three important dimensions of food security.
Okay.
The first one is the availability of food. The second is accessibility of food. And the third one is affordability. Now, what do we mean by availability of food? Now, availability of food means that there should be ample supply of food grain for all the population in the economy. Now, if there is any shortage in the food supply, either due to some kind of calamities or some agroclimatic reasons, then that shortage in food supply should be met either through import from outside, or the government should maintain a certain amount of stock with it. So whenever there is a shortage in food supply, that can be met through import or buffer stock. The second important point, now, what is accessibility? Making food supply available in itself is not enough. These foods should reach the people, each and every citizen of the country. Every citizen should have the availability of the food within their reach. Now, why this thing arises? Because here we have to focus on the distribution aspect, and this distribution aspect comes into forefront because there are regional disparities. There are some regions which are abundant in food production, and there are some regions which have very less food production. Now, the third point, which is affordability. Now, even having the accessibility of food grain itself will not be enough. Will the people would be able to buy this? So it should be affordable to all people in the poor. The affordability arises mainly because of the poor people have less purchase. Not rise much, because if the prices of the food grain increases much, then what will happen? Even the people who are okay. So we explain food security in terms of important dimension. Yeah, Tanvi.
Okay, ma'am. If we talk about particularly
Tanvi?
our country, India.
Can we have the next question?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So if we talk about our country, India.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Indian people, do we need it, and why exactly is it required?
Yeah, of course we need it, and again I'll explain in terms of these three dimensions. We'll start with the first dimension. First dimension, what we talked about was the availability of the food grain. Now, why availability of food grain becomes important? Because India is a very highly populated country. It has the second largest population in the country. Almost 1/5 of the world population resides in the country, and this population has been increasing. So one of the objectives of the food security is to feed all its population. And this rising population implies that our food grain output should increase at the same rate, at a much rate, so that it can feed the entire population. Now, as for the second point, which was the unequal distribution of food resources. Now, this unequal distribution of food resources, again, is in terms of accessibility, which is because of regional disparity and because of the low purchasing power of the people. Now, if we come back to the high population and agriculture productivity, we've seen that the government of India has taken many steps to increase the productivity of agriculture. Now, ever since independence, it was realized that we have to improve the agriculture productivity, because at the time of independence, we faced a very major famine, which is known as the Great Bengal Famine. And during this famine, what happened? There was a huge food shortage. And therefore, the very first 5-year plan gave importance to agriculture. Now, after that, there were many agrarian reforms which were undertaken, such as land reforms. There were many developmental irrigational projects which were undertaken. So these were taken till 1960s, but we were still facing problems like droughts and famines. So in the 60s, a major change was undertaken to increase the productivity of the food grains, especially wheat and rice, and that came to be known as the Green Revolution. So what happened in the Green Revolution? New varieties of seeds, high-yielding varieties of seeds were introduced, multiple cropping was introduced, better irrigation facilities were provided to the farmers, fertilizers were provided to the farmers at a subsidized rate. So all these factors combined together created a kind of revolution in the production of wheat and rice, and that came to be known as the Green Revolution. And after Green Revolution, there were many other revolutions followed it, such as the White Revolution, which actually led to an increase in the supply of milk. Then there is the Golden Revolution, then there is Yellow Revolution, which is related to oilseed. So all these revolutions took over a period of time since 1960s, and now we are in a position where we are self-sufficient in the production of food grain. So availability of food grain is no longer a problem with India. In 1960, around 60 million ton was produced, or food grain was produced, which is now 281 million tons in 2018 and 19. So, and we have not experienced any major famine since then. So, availability of food is no longer an issue with India. So, we come to the next point, which is the accessibility, the physical accessibility of the food. Now, again, India is a vast country, and obviously there is a huge regional disparities. And this regional disparities arises because of uneven growth within the country. And the growth depends on many factors. It also depends on the agroclimatic conditions. It depends on the different levels of investment in rural infrastructure. It also depends on the inputs and the technology we use in the agricultural sector. Now, some regions are arid and dry. Some regions are very fertile. The soil condition also plays a very important role. So due to which we have a certain part of country which are abundant in food grain production, and there are certain regions which have a very meager supply of food grain. So the physical accessibility is important to take away this excess supply from the region and to distribute it to the region where there is less supply. So if you talk about India, Punjab and Haryana have very well developed irrigation system, and due to which they have an excess food supply, especially in terms of food grains, and most of the other states have lagged behind, especially if you talk about Bihar, certain parts of Bihar, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, parts of Maharashtra, UP and Madhya Pradesh. They are all food insecure states, and therefore there is a need and there is a requirement to provide food security to these regions, to people of these regions. Now, if you talk about, we'll come back to the Great Bengal Famine of 1943 again. So, what happened during the Great Bengal Famine of 1943? There was a shortfall in the food grain production, but it was not enough to bring about a kind of starvation in there. What happened during that period? That the Britishers were fighting the World War II, and most of the grains were diverted to the British soldiers. and due to which what happened, it created a local shortage, and very less food was available for local consumption. So this also, so the fact why I'm bringing the example of Great Bengal Famine here is that even when the food is available, it should reach the people. So physical accessibility of food grain is very important. Otherwise, it can lead to starvation and death. Now that brings us to the last reason why India should focus on food security, and it is the most important reason, which is the economic accessibility to food. Now, a vast majority of Indian population lives below the poverty line, and it's very difficult for them to even manage 2 square meals a day. Now, these people, they do not have enough land or entitlement to secure food. So even when there is food available to them, they are not able to buy them because their purchasing power is very low. And imagine a situation for these people when a calamity happens. So whenever there is a calamity happening, what happens? So there is a shortage of food supply. And when there is a shortage of food supply, what will happen? The price of the food supply will increase, and the poor people who were earlier, some poor people who were earlier able to afford the food would not be able to afford food when then such calamities occur, because the price of the food grain increases. Now, if we want to talk about who are these food insecure people, so we'll talk about the rural people. In rural area, most of the workers are marginal and landless workers, and they work on farm. So Indian agriculture by its very nature is seasonal in character. So within a year, for 4-5 months, your agricultural land remains fallow and there is no work to be done on the farm. So these agricultural workers remain unemployed for a major part of the year. So even if they are earning good income for a certain portion of the year, for some part, they have no income at all. So they become insecure, or they become the hunger kind of a situation arises for them for those periods. Now, why do they remain unemployed for those 4 months? The reason for it is there's no employment opportunities available in rural area. So there's no non-farm employment opportunities available. The only main opportunity available in rural area is that on the farming. Now, since there's no non-farm activities available in rural area, what do these people do? They migrate to near towns and cities or to urban centers. Now, since they are unskilled, they have no formal training, so they are not able to find meaningful jobs even in the urban centers. So what happens? So most of them pick up casual works. They become a rickshaw puller, they become a cart puller, they open a small dhaba at the corner of the street. So they don't have a very good income source. Their income source is very low. So obviously, since their income source is very low, what will happen? They would not be able to buy good quantity and qualitative nutritional food for themselves. So that also creates a kind of hunger situation for them. Now, next slide, please. So if we look at the Global Hunger Index of 2020, India is ranked 94 among 107 countries. And the saddest part is we are behind our neighbors like Nepal, Bangladesh and Pakistan. So we still faces the problem of seasonal hunger as well as chronic hunger. So seasonal hunger was the hunger when we talked about the agricultural workers who were employed. When they were employed, they were able to fend for themselves. But for the remaining season, when they had no work, they were finding it difficult to buy food grains. And chronic hungers are those people who have a very low level of income and therefore they are not able to buy good quality and quantity of food grains. Yes, Sanvi.
Pretty bad number, if I can say. But okay, our government definitely has a big role here to play. So can you talk about that? What is our government doing to ensure the food security situation in our country?
Okay, so the government ensure food security by doing two things. One is by creating a buffer stock and the other by operating a public distribution system. Okay. So we'll talk about these two in detail. Now, both of these activities of the government, creating a buffer stock and operating a public distribution system, is executed by the Food Corporation of India. Now, the Food Corporation of India was set up in 1964. Its main objective is to purchase the agricultural items from the farmers and at a predetermined price. They purchase it from the farmers at a predetermined price, and then they store it in the granaries, and once they've stored it in the granaries, they send it to the public distribution system to be distributed among the poor. Now, what are these predetermined prices? These predetermined prices are also known as the minimum support prices. Currently, the central government fixes the minimum support prices for 23 commodities, out of which 7 are cereal, including obviously wheat and rice, 5 are pulses, 7 oilseeds, and 4 commercial crops. Now, these minimum support prices are announced way in advance of the harvest time. Now, what is the objective of the minimum support prices? Now, one objective is obviously to supply to food grain to the poor through public distribution system. That is the main objective of food security as well. The other objective is to help the farmers. Now, what happens? Most of the farmers, it protects the farmers against bumper crop. So what happens whenever there is a bumper crop, there's too much supply. And whenever there is too much supply, what will happen to the prices? The prices of those commodities will fall down. Now, since the prices fall down, the farmer's income will get affected. Now, under such situation, the government guarantees to buy from these farmers at this pre-announced minimum support price. So, and these minimum support prices are generally higher than the market price. So, it acts as a safety net for the farmers. So, what has happened due to which minimum support prices, most of the farmers, instead of now selling it to the in the market, open market, they sell it to the government at minimum support price. Now, currently, almost a third of the food grain production is procured by the FCI. Now, once these food grains are procured by the FCI, what does the FCI do? They store them in the granaries, which are known as buffer stock. Now, the question arises, why do we need buffer stock? Now, there are 3 objectives of the buffer stock. The first one is obviously to tackle the food crisis, which happens during drought or any other natural calamities. The second one, obviously, to serve the public distribution system, you have to give food to public distribution system so that they can reach the poorest of the poor. And along with this, there's also the objective of price stability. Now, the price stability and the most important portion of the buffer stock goes through public distribution system. And how does this public distribution system work? The public distribution system works through ration shops, which are also known as fair price shops, which are located in all the villages, towns and cities. Now, even in the ration shop, how will the people be, which people to be given? So that has to be recognized, and for that, the people who can buy from the ration shop are given a ration card, which tells them that these people can be given food grain at the subsidized price. Now, currently, there are almost 4 lakhs ration shops spread all over the country.
Okay. Ma'am, this public distribution system, PDS, in short, how successful is that, and how effective is it? And because we don't have much time, so can you explain this question in a brief manner?
Okay, so see, the public distribution system has been very effective. The coverage has increased over the period of time. And we've also, since we don't have much time, so I will not go into the history. We can just say that in 1997, we have shifted to a targeted public distribution system. So under targeted public distribution system, what do? We target a certain section of the society. So there are 3 different types of families which are covered under targeted public distribution system. The one is below the poverty line, above the poverty line, and in 2000, we added the Antyodaya Anna Yojana, which covers the poorest of the poor. So here in the targeted public distribution system, the objective is to target only the poor. Earlier, everybody could take the benefit of the ration shop. Then it was shifted only to the poor regions. But now, all the regions the poor of all the regions can take the benefit of this. So below the poverty line people, they have a certain fixed limit of quantity which food grain which they can take it from the ration shop. Above the poverty line people, there is no fixed ration. For the poorest of the poor, the price is fixed at a very low level. For example, for the poorest of poor, AAY, the price for the rice is only 3 rupees per kg. Wheat is 2 rupees kg. And now they are given even the coarse grain which is at 1 rupees kg. Now, in a sense, public distribution system has worked very well. It has been able to reach almost all the the poorest of the poor, and it has been effective. But there are many shortcomings of the public distribution system, and we have to think rationally, and we need to make few changes in it. One of the thing is this public distribution system and the minimum support price, we cannot look at them separately because they are part and parcel of the same policy. So what has that led to is a huge buffer stock. Now this huge buffer stock has arisen mainly because of higher price of the marginal, minimum support price. The minimum support price higher and has been increasing over the period of time. Now, since it has been increasing over the period of time, the government becomes customer for the farmers. So they, instead of selling to the market, they rather sell it to the FCI, which has led to the problem with government is we do not have storage facilities, and what is happening? These grains are getting bad. They are getting contaminated, and the nutritional quality of the grains is also falling. So that kills the very purpose. The objective of the food security is also to provide a good quality of grain. Now, since you've stocked it for such a long period of time, what has happened? It has the nutritional part. So in that sense, it is not good. Secondly, what has happened? Due to this is minimum support price, what has happened? Most of the farmers in Punjab and Western UP and Haryana, they have devoted their land to the production of rice because it gives them a safe haven because their product can be bought by the government. So which has led to over-utilization of the land, and therefore the soil has degraded, due to which it will create a problem in the long run.
Okay.
Now, another problem of the food distribution system is, yeah.
Ma'am, we have to end the session now.
Yeah, Tanvi?
Ma'am, we have to end the session now. The time is nearly up. Thank you for explaining the concept of food security. It was really interesting, and I'm sure students...
So overall, Chalo, thank you. I wish we had some more time.
We'll continue again in the next session maybe. Till then, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you to all the students as well for watching this session, and I am sure you got all the answers related to food security. Well, this was one interesting session, I must say. Keep on watching NCERT's online resource material, because we are coming back with our special program, webinar on ICT tool. So stay with us, don't go anywhere. We are here, and yes, stay safe. Thank you. Namaste.